It's so good to have you here. It is the Kingdom Mentor podcast. I always so appreciate that you take the time to listen. So, we're all about finding your voice if you feel voiceless and being able to find the transformation when you speak and speaking to the person you once were. I am so excited to bring you Celeste Mergens. Let me tell you something about her, though. She's a specialist in bridging difficult cultural divides and overcoming trauma herself. She is the founder of Days for Girls, a global award-winning organization that has reached 3 million women and girls in 45 countries. She's also a best-selling author on Amazon. So will you please help me welcome Celeste. Hey, Celeste, good to have you.
Oh, so happy to be with you.
Celeste, I got to tell you, we were at the same mastermind. And I was struggling because of my voice. No one could hear me. The people that needed to hear me did hear me, but it was just a struggle. So I went out of the main auditorium, I think it was, and all of a sudden Celeste came walking by. And she carries grace. And she carries something that's beyond herself. She probably doesn't even realize it. I can't remember how it was, but I like, hey. And then I found out about her book. And then I said, let's do an interview. Guess who missed up on turning the button? But this is even better. Celeste, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy to join you. You're right. This is even better. Turned out perfect.
Yes. And the fact you took so much time really blesses me. So, Celeste, I talk about being voiceless from trauma. And based on what I've read, you're no stranger to trauma. Can you just give us a journey of what led up to this amazing book?
Absolutely. You're right. And I love being a representative of You Can Overcome It. My family endured a lot of things. We were occasionally homeless and lived in between places, and
Oh, wow.
there was struggle with mental illness for a parent, and it was
Okay.
not a safe place to grow up. It wasn't a safe place to expect food, to expect clothing. It was difficult
Wow.
to be safe from being harmed in
Yeah.
multiple ways. So just not a safe place.
So how did you journey from that place to as you got older? What were some keys that helped you truly forget what lies beyond and reaching forward to what lies ahead? Any specific things you can think of?
Oh, 100%. So for me, there have been so many of them hidden in the trauma itself. So let me share
Mm,
what I mean.
okay.
One time, uh, an incident happened that I used to think is one of the worst things that ever happened to me. And then only recently, like 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, I realized, wow, that actually was a gift. So here's what happened.
Mm,
I was
okay.
about 5 years old. We were at a state park. We would stop along the way between places and, roadside or state park. And I was walking along a sidewalk and a dog walked into view, and it had a sparkly collar that went straight up to a woman's hand who had a half-eaten apple. And it had been a while since I'd eaten,
Oh,
and certainly since I'd had fresh fruit. And she threw it into the dumpster right by where we were standing. And I
mm,
stared at it. I was trying to figure out if I could get into the dumpster, get the apple, and still get back out. When I realized she was staring at me and looking me up and down, she
oh,
said, "Where are your shoes, girl?" And I used to think of her as Cruella de Vil. Do you know this movie?
yes, I do. The wicked.
Right. Over and over again, I would think of her and rehearse again and again or replay what she had said. And because in that moment when she was saying, "Where are your shoes, girl?" I could see it was like a mirror turned around. And I could see that when she looked at me, she saw a little girl dirty and unkempt,
Mm,
clothes too small for her, and barefoot. And and I wanted to say, I had this feeling well up. Are you the little girl with no shoes? Are you the homeless girl? Or are you something more as the result of this feeling of
mm,
you are not this thing. You are not
wow.
from this place. You are not this. And I wanted to say that to her. She had already turned to walk away. But that
Wow.
moment kept echoing, and it really taught me, even from we get to decide who we are. The woman
Yeah.
on the sidewalk and the look she gave us does not
Mm,
get to decide. The circumstance we're in does not define us. It's what
thank
we
you.
decide. And the best part is we can reinterpret moments and decide to take the strength from them,
Right.
and not the derision, not the
Yeah.
judgment. That
Right.
part, what we use it for, what we think it means, how we think it determines us, that's our choice.
Yeah. It's like an identity that you get to create your identity, not by what you're doing, or it's just really by who you are on the inside. And
Mhm.
I can tell that you've definitely found a way to get to the other side. So I like what it says in one of your questions, the power of saying yes. So what yeses did you say along the way to have such a dramatic homeless to starting to become the woman that really God's made you?
Mhm. I wish I could say it was one moment. I
Yeah.
I do, because there are many moments of struggles and many, another
Yeah.
trial, and you go feel like the next wave hits you and you have to get up and go again. And I have to say that for sure, God's blessings were all along. Even
Yeah.
that feeling in that woman in that moment who gets to say and see at age 5 a little bit of you are not. You are so
Wow.
much more. We all are. And and it's also been moments where I had a really horrible trauma where after protecting my sisters for my whole life, I learned that the latest stepfather had attacked them. And
Wow.
I and
Wow.
and this whole ensuing chain of events that left me not so sure any longer that my life was worth living, that I was worthy for anything, even God's love, because no one loved me
Wow.
consistently in my mind and heart and feelings, right?
Yeah.
And and the gift of getting to meet my biological father and getting to be for a time, 3 whole weeks, just holed up in a room with people I'm a
Wow.
relative stranger, journaling, praying, reading scriptures,
Wow.
crying, journaling, this
Wow.
on and on for 3 weeks, kind of spilling out all the things that happened and trying to reinterpret and understand them. Why? Why would
Yeah.
your own parents make life so much harder for you? Why
Yeah.
would they show you hatred instead of love? Why? Is
Huh.
it me? Is it, just processing and coming to the end of it with ahas that
Ah.
included that the state I was in would probably make them happy. Like if they could see me, the irritation of my always rising back to, I believe that we are blessed. I believe
Hey.
that we have a purpose. I know that together we can make a difference was irritating for them. Like,
Sure.
you stop her, please. And
Yeah.
these moments when I was at the lowest would
Yeah.
have made them happy and going, uh-oh. And then realizing that my own parents were jealous of
Yeah.
spark, that
Isn't that
realizing that even in this moment, we can the lowest moments, it is up to us the next step we will take.
something?
And feeling just that realization, I am not going to be what someone else expected of me. I'm
Wow.
going to brush my hair, get up,
Yeah.
walk out of the room, and I am never looking.
That's so good. It's almost like, I think people wanna stay where they are, and you are rising up, and it's like I always think of it like the majesty of God offends them. The majesty of God on you is
Yes.
almost offensive because 'cause they'd rather stay bound. "Oh, this is" blame it on something else. But at a young age, you took responsibility for yourself.
Mm.
Wow, that is a
Not that
story for
yet.
someone,
I
the
kinda
people.
had that's another hardship that held a gift. I was the oldest of 4 girls at the time. There were 2 more that
Okay.
were born later or came into our family later. We adopted 1, and another was born into the family, and that gave me the will to try to be strong for them. I
Wow.
had that gift, right?
You
And
do.
and and I recognize a lot of gifts even in the worst. That's
Yeah.
one of the gifts is to find gratitude even
Yeah.
through the hardest. The more gratitude you get, the more reasons to be grateful.
Exactly. And I think you hit on such a key. psychologically, neuroscience way, the gratitude is like it produces like this expectancy mode. And I think there's nothing that can change your life quicker than every day being grateful, because something I think science shows this, there's an adjustment in your brain, there's a structural change as you learn to be grateful. And you are a testament, though, to be in the midst of yuck and still saying, wait a minute, I'm going to take control. I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to be grateful. I think that's a message for someone listening right now. You know, sometimes it's your misery that creates your destiny. And sometimes it's just a
Mm.
matter of saying yes to what God wants you, yes to the possibilities. Because, Celeste, I really believe when you say yes, the yes of God swoops down and meets it. And, you know, we know the yes of God is yes and amen to all his promises.
Yes.
So let's do the shift. Obviously, from this well of healing and still going through trauma, you God gave you a compassion for overseas and what you saw. So maybe that's fast forward, but I really want to talk more about your book. But so when was the deciding factor when you did say, "Hey, wait a minute. There's more there's more here. What do you want me to do with my life?" Maybe did you feel like that would came to a point of that?
So many of them. And here again, it was often in a moment of what felt like a closed door that the
Wow.
open door for a huge shift happened. I was running an incredible writers conference, 6
Okay.
beautiful children and foster children and
Right.
foreign exchange students and having this incredible life married to my best friend and
Uh,
and then loving doing a writers conference too. And then it was like, you need to stop. I didn't want to. I was like, no, I love this. What do you mean I
wow.
need to stop? And then everything started crumbling into contention, and I don't do contention. So it was
Right.
like I moved on, and I felt so grieved. I was praying,
Oh,
please,
yeah.
why can you fix it? Why are you doing this? And then
Yeah.
I got to go to Kenya because I wasn't doing the conference anymore. And with
Okay.
a friend, got to help her amazing school, the Clay International School in project education. And
Okay.
while there, helped do sustainable solutions, and my experiences of poverty made me
Wow.
realize we needed things we could count on, not a handout, but a way to manage better. And so this was passionate for me, and I thought, "Oh, then I get introduced to an orphanage. This is my mission. I'm so excited
Mm,
I get to do this." But it
okay.
wasn't the orphanage. It was a moment when I learned that they were sitting on pieces of
Mhm.
cardboard for days. During their periods, they had nothing, and this question, a question came out by asking a prayer when I learned answering an answer to prayer when I learned girls and the children were without food for days during a catastrophe. Having
Mm,
been someone that experienced hunger, having been someone that knows what it's like, the
wow.
pain and not being able to sleep because it wakes you up, I knew that that had to change. What I didn't know was that there was something else they were facing, which was sitting in their rooms for
Yeah.
days without access to the classroom, without access to being able to care for themselves during their periods. I literally went, I had no idea. I
Yeah.
thought to answer. We get there, amazing people contributed so that we could make sure food was there, other
Okay.
things, and disposable pads. But what do they do the next month?
Yeah.
Phenomenal volunteers created the First Days for Girls kits. We
Right.
got there 3 weeks later with them. The girls danced with them, cheered with them, and then the first girls came to the door and said, "Thank you so much," because
Wow.
before you came, we had to let them use us if we wanted to leave the room and go to
Oh,
class.
oh, bless them.
I
Wow.
was praying that didn't mean what I feared it meant, and it
Yeah.
turned out they were being exploited in exchange for a
Mm,
single disposable pad,
mm,
and
mm,
that was the moment Days for
yeah.
Girls was born.
Yeah. Woo, that's a story. And it continues. Daysforgirls.org. Please go there and support this.
Thank
But out of this, from the writers conference to Kenya, now you're back. God is obviously putting something on you to write a book that is rising. It just was released October 3rd. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Wow. So tell us about I think this is interesting because I think a way your voice is expressed is in a book or a song. What was that like? kind of reliving some things, but yet laying it out in a book where someone can really get that, oh, okay, this is what's going on.
I have to tell you, I wanted to tell the story of the girls. I wanted to tell the story of the volunteers and the people rallying all over the planet and the incredible impact, because it is proof that when we come together over what we would love to have happen instead of what we hate, that a miracle can happen, that amazing things and shifts can occur. And I needed and wanted that story to come out. So I would write and write and write. What I did not want to share was my part in the story.
Oh,
And,
wow.
and over again, well, it felt like I was not important in this amazing
Oh,
adventure.
bless you. Yeah.
But what happened again and again was awareness that if I didn't tell my part of the story, it wouldn't be understood, were the
Right.
roots of this awareness that we all matter, that we could trust everyone to
Yeah.
show up in their way, that we wouldn't talk about the shame, the blame, or the poor me's, but rather the strength, the
Yeah.
opportunity, and the gifts. And why is that? And it's because of the gifts that I got from very difficult trials and
Yeah.
the breadcrumbs of how I grew beyond them and launched from them and have
Yeah.
been so blessed. So telling that whole story, the 3 days before the book came out, I honestly had that song Ground Control to Major Tom kept going through my head,
Yeah.
not because of the launch, but because I felt like I was stepping into space with a tiny tether to the oxygen of the people I love and my friends and
Yeah.
family to the
Wow.
whole world, and I felt so vulnerable, and I wished I could pull it back, but I also, for the girls, was willing to go, "Here, world," and of course, it was too late to pull it back, and
Oh,
I'm so grateful because I've been getting messages from all over the world saying
yeah.
how much this book is changing their lives, and I've been able to it became number 1 Amazon new release by the 2nd day, number
So
1
good.
Amazon new
Thank
release
you,
audio
God.
by the 5th, and
Oh,
and it's a miracle.
but look how, I mean, you hear it, but do you do it? Often, or at least we hear it, you got to tell your story, you know, you got to be seen. And but part of being seen is just telling your story, is how, where you are, what you're at. And, I appreciate that because as I heal, I lost my husband in June of 2022, but it was not a pretty, wasn't a terrible death how he died. He had pancreatic cancer, but he got burned before that. But it
Oh,
was 26 years of a lot of control, a lot of a mind thing that I didn't realize I was being controlled. So you have to. This is what I'm bringing this. I know that's a story to be told for women who are caught in those relationships, but I can't speak until I speak from my scars. And you obviously have been healing, but then when it gets to the point of, okay, I got to be real, I got to be authentic, I got to tell my story. I see I know why that book's so powerful because you got sometimes it's the stories that draw us in to what we really wanna share. It's like, "Let me tell you a story, now let me hit you with what's going on here." And
mhm.
I'm so thankful that you did that because I know anytime you share your story, it has to come from the healed place. If it comes from the wound, then it's spilly and messy and no one really gets the impact. So I guess I'll just ask the question. My cat wants to join us. Can you tell us, I think, like, what were, like, a couple clues that helped you in the healing process?
Ooh,
Is that too vague or too hard?
yeah. Well, there's so many, right? I
I
would
can
say the number 1, the first one that clicked for me that I could say as a tip was recognizing that soundtrack that we have, those little recordings that loop through our head that are
wow.
criticizing, demeaning to us, that are way meaner than anyone would ever be to us, those things
Yes.
that can loop in our head. Starting
Yeah.
to recognize and feel them when they happen. So before I would go, "Now, Celeste, ignore that, move on." And then I started doing instead paying attention to it. So if
Yes.
you're walking along and all of a sudden you feel upset and you weren't upset a few minutes ago, what is it that just happened? And sometimes
Right.
I heard something, smelled something, saw something, and it triggered this little, you can't do that. Who do you
Right.
think you are? you're stupid. You're all these things you would never allow someone to say. And being able to go, wait, wait, wait. Where did that come from? Okay,
Right.
here's what I want to acknowledge. I am actually blessed. Things are going well right now. I'm right here, right
Okay.
now, and I'm strong. I'm intelligent, and I could trust that the next step will be clear. That's the truth for me. And
Yeah.
sending out prayers of gratitude and thanks and awareness. I'm feeling really feeling blank here. And I trust that I'll find a way, but I need you to know that I don't feel strong right now.
Yeah.
That
Wow.
that and I'm accepting whatever I need so that I can be all that I need to be in this world.
Wow.
I am accepting that future. And
Yeah.
that was a game changer for me.
Yes. What I hear is a woman who's that my cat is attracted to your voice or something, but I hear something really powerful. You have compassion on yourself. You're
Yes.
allowing yourself to feel, but at the same time, your gratitude is what helps rewire some of what you just said. I mean, someone needs to rewind what she just said right there, because Celeste just gave you a neuroscience way to rewire your brain, because when you have trauma, it is stored in your body. So there is a process to reconceptualize it. It's like it's there, but you can reconceptualize it, rethink, wait a minute, I'm gonna have another look at this, what's really stuck in me. I'm gonna relook it. I'm gonna come in with gratitude. Because you know what I think gratitude does? I think it's a springboard for what's called the expectancy mode. The expectancy mode from gratefulness expects things to happen, even though there's no evidence. And do you know what that does? It releases a transmitter called dopamine, which keeps you from depression. So, I mean, I get so excited when you start mentioning gratitude. So if anyone's listening and they're like, oh, girl, you don't know my situations. No, I don't. But I've been in the midst of trauma. Celeste is giving you a story of, look at her. She's a best-selling author on Amazon. Did that just happen? No, she took care of herself. I love how you said when you're like walking along and you think if something hits you, I always like, if something hits me, I'm like, okay, I go back. What did I read an email? Like, or did I smell something?
Mhm.
Did I see a picture? Okay, I saw it. Now let me bring it into the present. Not real good, but let me look at it, examine it. And then let me go ahead and put it in the present. For me, I'll say, be real with it. But then for me, it's like, give it back to God. You know, he's the one who's healing you. So give it back to God.
Yes.
So, wow.
Yeah.
So the excitement of writing your story and now having a book, I just so proud of you. I'm so excited for you.
Right.
Well, yeah,
Treasures
do you have
to
a picture? It was really cool. We were at this conference and I really loved how they honored her. She was one of 10 that were on the stage. Please go get that book.
Yay, the power of
Please,
faith. And it's a
please.
story of resilience, dignity,
Yeah,
and the fight for women's equity. Can
you
I
may
share
need that.
another technique that I've used for
Sure.
healing
Oh,
traumas?
yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, so here it is. I call it mind the gap. It's
Mm,
acknowledging that the moment between something happening to us and our response is really small. And more than 95% of the time, I believe the science is 98, more than 98% of the time, it is our automatic first responder, the
wow.
amygdala, making quick interpretations from the subconscious so that we don't have to be always grinding on every thought. We can save our thoughts for important decisions, right? However, we get to acknowledge that that defaults to negative. It's trying to keep you safe, thank goodness. So
Yeah.
every decision it makes is that safe? Is that so it defaults to negative. So here's the result. When you and I experience something, it's going to go that way. And sometimes it's small things like the conference we were at. A woman who's a friend walked up and said, I'm reading your book. I'm halfway through it. And I went, oh, thank you. And then she didn't say anything else. She smiled and she walked off. And you
Oh,
know, this thing that you think, if you have nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. I'm like, oh no,
oh,
she didn't
yeah.
like it. Right.
Yeah.
Well, in that moment, I could get drugged down the rabbit hole of,
Right.
oh, this is so sad. She didn't like it. I'm so embarrassed. Wonder what she didn't like. What,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
instead, I held that moment open and brought three things:
Okay.
curiosity for more details, gratitude, and the wisdom of now. So here's what I did. I held it open and went, well, I'm really grateful she got the book. She probably had something she had to go to. She's in a busy place and she's got a lot of responsibilities. And it's none of my business what people think.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
from a great book, The Four Agreements, which is a great healer and change maker
Yeah.
too.
True.
And so then I
That's
went, so now I get to choose. I'm going to
right.
choose to be curious, grateful, and let it go. I'm just going
So
to let it
good.
go and close it up. So instead of spending the next 6 hours going, oh man,
Yeah.
I spent the next 6 hours enjoying the moments that came.
Mhm.
And then she walked up. This is Amber. She walked up and she said, oh, Mary, this is the woman I was telling you about, whose book I've been reading. I'm loving it. It's such a good book.
Oh, wow.
6
Wow.
hours. I could have
6
been like
hours. Yeah.
swirling my,
Good
we do
man.
this. We do.
Yeah.
So here's where it's really important if you're a survivor of trauma, besides
Yeah.
allowing you to save the energy you could lose. Because truthfully, even if they did mean that, it's not helpful to our relationship or to anything about our momentum to
Wow.
get caught in the what ifs, right? So
So
if you've been through a trauma, this is especially important because that moment between something happening to you and your determination was kind of hijacked away by the trauma of
yeah.
the moment. And you're
Yeah.
going to see the moment from one place, a place of warning, of defense, of danger, of throbbing energy, right? If
Wow.
instead you can open that moment back up and do the same, look for details, find a thing to be grateful for that's not always easy,
Yeah.
and bring the wisdom of now. So in the
Wow.
case of, I have a great example, but for sake of time, I'll go to a case that was very traumatic for me.
Okay.
Now, in
Okay.
that moment, I couldn't open it up and pretend that it wasn't horrible because it was. But what I
Right.
can do is look for more details. I can recognize the light coming in the window, the dirt, the things happening, who's there, the smells, because and allow yourself to feel for just a moment, because those feelings of panic are still with us. But if
Yeah.
we embrace it for just a moment, because we're going to shift it. So for just a minute, take a deep breath right now
Okay.
when you're feeling that,
Exactly.
and
So
then go with what can I be grateful for? Here's what all I can bring to that moment. I am
wow.
so grateful you survived. I'm
Mm.
so proud of you, little
Mm.
one, for being able to rise from that moment and keep going. I
Mhm.
am so grateful for the wisdom you are gathering. You don't even know you will need about empathy of
So
others going through these things. And I am so grateful
wow.
that you will bring many gifts, will help you change millions of lives. I just need you to know that I see you. You are
Ooh.
not alone. God sees you. I see you. And I'm so proud of you. And I love you so much. Hang on,
That's
because
so
I am here. And
yeah.
this day is
Yeah.
coming. And then you
That's
close it. And then you just, because you get to take back your whatever
yeah.
you needed in that moment, because it's
So
just
good.
as true that you are here. You're
Yeah.
witnessing it. You are witnessing it from the strength of now.
So beautiful. Mm. I think what you show me is if you look at fear as trying to take care of you, it's another way of looking at fear. It just is trying to take care of you.
Yes.
And my friend who took me through 10 weeks of neurocycle training, she echoes in my ear, it's not going to kill you, T. Or what's the best thing that could happen? So it's not going to, so like if I have to do something a little nerve wracking or like, it's not going to kill me. Or what's the best thing that can happen? You know, or sometimes I think of this, okay, I'm experiencing all this, but what would I say to a friend who's experiencing it? And then let that hit you because we're so easy to be all, you know, but that's exactly what you did. You opened yourself up, you felt, you had gratitude, you had compassion on yourself. Someone needs to rewind that section over because that was a recipe to be able to go from triumph and tragedy up into, no, from tragedy to triumph in your mind. So you're talking a lot of things. Well, God gives us this mind for a reason, and
Yes.
that we can renew it. We can reconstruct it by being grateful. So that is exciting. I really appreciate that because good examples and definitely helps me as I continue to go through trauma. But I'm at a place, I don't know if you ever get to this place, which you may be now. It's like I wake up in the morning and I'm so excited. What do I get? Who do I get to be and what do I get to do? You know, because I had a lot of constraint, a lot of control, wasn't able to really walk in my dreams without control. So there's always a good side. There's always a way to, even though my husband was gone, I still had to deal with me, you know? I still had to deal with the trauma.
Mm.
And sometimes trauma shows up in depression. It showed up in me with watery eyes, and I had such lethargy. I was substituting at the time, and I was like, I'm in third grade. I can't afford to fall asleep on these kids. But that's how trauma hit me until I was able to pull it out. And I think the number one thing which you're sharing is you got to have compassion on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself, friend who's listening. Listen to Celeste. Wow. So as you go from day to day now for daysforgirls.org, what's the guiding light? Is it mainly just to continue to get word out about these girls? It said you've gone through how many passports? So you definitely have been back and forth. You
Yeah,
definitely walk the talk, so to speak. But
we
what's
filled
on the
3
horizon for
passports
you?
so far.
Yeah,
Um,
that's phenomenal. I think that's a testimony. You know what that's a testimony?
mm,
You're living proof now. You're not waiting to live. You are living now. I think there's something to be said for that because so often we can sit back and think, "Oh, not me. Oh, I can't do that." And but you're going forward from the tragedies of the trauma. And girl, you are on fire. You're going forward. I love that.
Thank you. It's such a miracle. I mean, every day is a new kind of miracle, and right now, I, about a year and a half ago, transitioned from being global CEO to focusing on founder and getting this book finished and out there,
Okay.
and really my focus, and in addition to awareness about the incredible impact that having
Yeah,
what they need every day is, and is for people to recognize that you can be unstoppable.
that's so good.
Nothing is too much to overcome, and
Amen.
we are all needed to be the change we need to see in the world, and it is our weaknesses that make us able to have empathy, able to see needs others may not even recognize, and able
Exactly.
to show up in ways that are authentic
Mm,
and humble enough to listen, and the pieces that the world needs. Like, it
yeah,
is the very reasons we say we do not qualify, the reason we feel we are unworthy, the reasons we feel like we do not deserve fill in blank here are the very reasons we must step up,
yes.
must shine, must love and be grateful for your life, because what you appreciate what you focus on comes into focus. So what if we all focused on the beauty, on
Mm,
the joy, on the things we'd love to see instead of the things we fear and the
yeah,
things that limit and the things we hate? Those
yeah.
things are creating more of the things we wish would change. Well, if we can lean in with faith, with
Yeah,
hope, with
yes.
love, and trust not only God, but ourselves. We sometimes believe God, or we believe in God, but we
But
do not believe God that
yeah,
all things are possible. And
amen.
they are, when
Yeah,
we trust, show
yeah,
up, and recognize that
it's
it
beautiful.
is our strengths and our weaknesses that
Yeah,
make you uniquely the person
yeah.
that needs to show up.
And I often think that the answers are inside of you. You just got to be brave to start finding the answers. They're inside of you. They're there. So, wow, this has been so great. So, how can people help right now? Obviously, buy your book on
Yes,
Amazon or
please.
local bookstore. Okay.
And
So,
find Days for Girls. You can contribute. You can
yeah.
donate in lieu of gifts this Christmas and give a girl back
Okay.
her days. It's just $13 for a kit, and they last
Oh,
for
yeah.
years. And
And
it
they,
comes with
okay.
education. Buying the books also benefits Days for Girls. And honestly, if you're overcoming trauma, this is a guide
Okay.
for how that can happen.
Oh, The
And
Power of Days that's the
it
title of the
is.
book?
It's the power of
Okay.
days, the story of
Celeste
resilience.
Mergens, okay.
Did you
Because
find it?
I'm definitely gonna buy maybe a few copies. for my kids.
Thank
And
you.
so if they go to daysforgirls.org, is that where they can
Correct.
donate?
And volunteer. You can find how to volunteer, how to
That's so good.
advocate, um, and follow me on social medias, and
Yeah,
we can have
how
some
can
more
they
powerful conversation.
how can they get in touch with you? Instagram, Facebook, what's
Uh-huh.
best?
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn,
Okay.
all of those
Awesome.
places.
At Celeste Mergens. So follow her, tell her how much you love her, DM her. I'm sure she'll be friendly and be
Absolutely.
able to. So
And I'd
thank
love
you
to
so
hear.
much. Wow, this has been so enriching. So when I walked out of that conference room frustrated because I didn't think anyone could hear me, I think it was divine I ran into you. It was just like there was something about you. You carry well the
Thank
gift
you,
of
my
grace. You
friend.
carry well healing from trauma. And I think those are my favorite people. I think a lot of people are attracted to that because it's just a gift of taking responsibility of yourself and still loving and being grateful. So thank you so much. So
It's
this
such
is the Kingdom Mentor podcast. I sure hope you share this podcast. Write a review. It helps us spread the message more. And if you want to get in touch with Celeste, please do reach out to our daysforgirls.org and then go the Power of Days. Go to Amazon or Barnes and Noble and get that book. I think it'll change your life. I can't wait to after I get off to go to Amazon and get it myself.
We'll have
All
to talk
right.
afterwards, after you read
Yes.
it.
Well, I will. We gotta have schedule another interview for afterwards. Celeste, thank you so much. And thank you. This is Theresa for the Kingdom Mentor podcast.